Hello everyone and welcome back to the Is That Brandon Music Sharing Thoughts podcast. So in today's podcast I'm going to be speaking about a couple of programs I've watched recently and just giving you my little review of the both of them. Now they're both from the same musician, I want to say musician, ex-singer-songwriter and musician, Jesy Nelson. So she has released a 6-part series, and she's also released a kind of series 2 episode 1 or a series 2 1-episoded documentary as well. So her 6-part was called Life After Little Mix, where she basically delved into the world of Little Mix, kind of how they were born, what happened throughout her time on the show, the obviously constant bullying and everything else that happened, and then obviously what she's gone on to do after the show. So I think if we just start with that one. So yeah, Jesy Nelson is from one of the biggest girl bands ever, basically created. The 4 of them auditioned for X Factor, and yeah, Leanne Pinnock, Jade Thirlwall, Perry Edwards and Jesy Nelson were all put together at boot camp in 2011, and they became the super power group who ended up going on to win the X Factor in 2011. So the first girl group to kind of get past week 3, week 4, week 5, and also the very first group just full stop to win the show, because otherwise it was just soloists. So yeah, what we actually found out as well is that Jade had previously auditioned a couple of years earlier. I think she'd auditioned the year the same as One Direction, but didn't quite make it through. And then the others had never obviously been on the show before. So yeah, obviously they had their time from 2011 through till 2000, and I think it was 2021 or 22. So 2021 was when Jesy left the band, and then kind of 2023 or 4 was when the rest of the girls decided to just kind of split up for now, do their own thing, do their solo things, and maybe reunite in the future. They've said as a 3, but you know, maybe there's that opportunity for Jesy as a 4 as well, but maybe not, because she left the band before the band disbanded, if that makes sense. So yeah, not too sure what's happening there. But since the X Factor, you know, all of the girls have been doing their own thing. Leanne, Jade and Perry have all released solo albums. They've all done little bits of tour and stuff like that around the UK and around the world as well. Jesy decided that she's not going to no longer do music, basically. And in her series Life After Little Mix, she basically discussed, you know, the highs and lows of being in the band, the whole reason of leaving the band, and the fact that it wasn't her decision really. So I think it's you know, as much as they're probably all happy now, you know, they're all doing their own thing and, you know, they're all living their own individual lives, it is a really emotional and sad topic for me to talk about. You know, the fact that Little Mix are now not the 4-piece girl band that were together touring the world, smashing stadiums and all this sort of stuff, because for me they are and will always be my favourite band, you know, ever. Like, there are so many solo artists that I really love, and there's so many artists that go viral on things like YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that, but it's not really the same, because when Little Mix auditioned I was like, oh, individually really, really good, didn't think the 4 would get put together, and actually they kind of were put as a 2 and a 2 together, because 2 of them knew each other, 2 others knew each other, and then it kind of blended a little bit better. So yeah, I will never not love Little Mix as a 4 and also as individuals. And you know, for anyone that critiques them or says that they didn't do well or doesn't like them, then I'm really sorry, but I'm gonna have to disagree with your views, because they've collaborated with some of the best artists around, let alone achieving deals, collaborations, awards, you know, for all different things, and even received a couple of Brit Awards as well, which, you know, to receive an award from the Brit Awards shows that you're obviously doing well in the British industry of whatever industry you're in. So yeah, I mean, some of their collaborations, just to name a few, are, you know, people like Jason Derulo. They had M&EK writing on some of their songs. They had Machine Gun Kelly. They had Charlie Puth, Nicki Minaj, Anne-Marie, which for me was, I think, my favourite collaboration. So yeah, that's just to name a few, but they, you know, CNCO, the boy band. So there's loads of different artists that they've worked with, and there's loads of covers of songs, there's loads of mixes of songs, there's loads of, you know, like, what's it called, like just random extra songs that you just hear around the world. Like, oh, I didn't realise that was a Little Mix song. Or I didn't realise that, they worked with this person on this project or whatever. So, they've had all their perfume sets, they've had all their calendars, they've had all their merchandise. And I think, for me, that's something that is going to be something that I cherish as well. Because, I've got so much merchandise. A lot less now because, I've had to kind of declutter a little bit. So as sad as it was to kind of get rid of a lot of things, I have got rid of loads of books, loads of merchandise, t-shirts, things like that. But there's still a few things that I've got, like lanyards. I've got a couple of t-shirts. I've got a couple of their books. One of my old friends, Maria, she actually had a bunch of Little Mix books, so she has given basically them to me, so I'm keeping them. And then I think I've got about 4 or 5 of their yearly calendars as well, along with other people as well. But yeah, so anyway, to not go off the topic, we're talking about Jesy Nelson today, but like I said, just in terms of the whole where she came from, yeah, I will love and adore all of the girls. And I think that's the thing, we will never, as individuals or members of the public, we will never know the full true story of every single thing that happened. We just know the girls and their sides of the story, the management, the managers, the makeup artists, the stage crew. Obviously you've got Simon Cowell and Psycho, and then you've got people that kind of have heard things or seen things or rumours or ex-boyfriends and girlfriends. Like, we're not going to fully know the full truth of everything, but I think it was a difficult journey for these girls, as young as they were, being put into the spotlight, just like every other band and individual from those type of shows or talent shows. They kind of thrusted into the real world, even watching all their auditions and stuff, just seeing how quickly they had to grow up and evolve and change into girls to women. So yeah, I think now that they're all kind of in their late 30s, beginning of 40s, they have their own lives to worry about. Jade has just broken up with her boyfriend. I think Perry and her husband, they're doing really, really well. I think they had a secret wedding as well. I think Leanne is still with her partner, and obviously Jesy was with her partner, but obviously that's what this whole documentary was about as well. So yeah, let's revert back. So life after Little Mix, I guess, for Jesy, a lot of what she mentioned about was how difficult it was being in the band and how lost she felt, and she kind of felt like she was not chasing a dream that she didn't want, but chasing a dream that she thought was going to go one way, and it ended up being different. So yeah, once she left the band, she received loads of hate as per what she had within the group. And I think it's one of those things of, I don't know why people were like that. I don't know if it was just a generation thing at that moment in time, or if the pop industry just wanted to just find their latest target, and she just happened to be in the spotlight at that time, and she happened to be the one to receive all that negative abuse and backlash. But yeah, I think she basically mentioned that when she left the show, obviously she did her previous documentary, Odd One Out, and she basically ended up becoming really, really close with her mum. So the two of them kind of bonded together, and she ended up finding a new man called Zion Foster. So Zion is actually a musician, singer-songwriter as well, rapper. And yeah, they met online, and I think he was 5 or 6 years younger than her, so a bit of an age gap. And yeah, she was obviously going through pregnancy and had found out that her children were going to basically be having 2 health conditions. So there was the one condition, which was SMA, which was children being born, and if they didn't have some sort of test, obviously they might not be able to walk, or they might not be able to live a life like an ordinary child would. I'm not saying those with SMA or other things are not normal children, but genetically and standard, a standard type of life basically is the best way to phrase that. So she had that to worry about, and then obviously there was lots of disagreements with her and the boyfriend as well. It was more difficult for him because he's a younger boy. I think he was 22 or 23 or something. So him having a lady a little bit older that also then has these health problems to worry about for the children was very difficult. They were in and out of hospital, and he'd probably never experienced anything like this. And also for it to be all public as well, because some people like to keep things behind closed doors, but I think she wanted to kind of broadcast how difficult this journey was, and the fact that she was being brave, and the fact that she was just this genuinely lovely person, and she was just treated really badly by whoever, and it made her feel really bad. And she does express that quite a lot with a lot of colourful language as well. But yeah, being able to just have a documentary where it's just kind of all about her life, her health, how she feels. She even mentioned in the documentary that it wasn't necessarily even her choice to leave the band. it was more of a suggestion, or apparently one of the other girls wanted to leave the band, or I'm not really too sure what that whole situation was, but she didn't even want to leave the band, I don't think. Whenever she was asked, it was more almost like she was forced out, basically. And then I think when she ended up making her decision, there was a really awkward phone call with the girls, and that's the last time that she spoke to them, and she hasn't really seen or spoke to them since that. So yeah, obviously there's a lot of extra details and extra things we find out from the horse's mouth, from the person who it's affected the most. But like I said, I'm not really here for the drama or the he said she said, or these girls did this and she did that and the rest of it. It's like, they're full adults now, they've had 10, 11, 12 years of life together as best mates. They've broken so many records, they've created so many things, so much merchandise, people around the world know who they are. So yeah, I'm hoping that they'll kind of all squish whatever drama they had and go, look, you know what, we were younger, we didn't really know what the world was going to be throwing at us, or the sorts of dramas that were going to come about, but let's look at all the good things that happened. And there may have been disagreements and arguments where someone was in the right and someone was in the wrong, but it's kind of just going, look, let's just get over it, move on, and just enjoy the rest of our lives, and hopefully come back and reunite. I think even if they don't tour again as a 4 or even a 3, because the future is unknown. You never know what's going to happen, but I do hope they try and come together later on in life and go, look, we've had 10 years apart, or however long it ends up being, let's try and kind of forget about the past, and we're all individuals now, and we're all ladies, and we've all got great lives to live, so let's try and live that all together, because of where we all started from. We all started together as a band. So but yeah, in the documentary, I think her mum also showcased loads of the Little Mix stuff that she has, so bags and shoes and outfits and things that she's probably never going to wear again, but they're all just in boxes called LM or Little Mix, or props and toys and things like that. Now I would have an absolute way day with those on selling platforms. If she doesn't want any of the stuff, sell it or get your money for it. Probably worth quite a lot, because it's been on someone who's obviously in quite a prominently known band. And yeah, I think in that documentary as well, she was basically showing the highs and lows, her and this Zion moving to I can't remember where they ended up moving to, Dorset was it, or somewhere. Basically they moved somewhere really, really lovely, and I think he proposed, so proposed to her. And yeah, and the second documentary, which is called Life Changing, we again find out about the twins, that they not only do they have SMA, but they've also got this kind of bodily potential body malfunction or issue, where if the tests are not done before a certain age, again, they might not be able to walk, and they'll have breathing problems and things like that. So it's almost like she's got 2 different lots of health problems in one for her children, and she's done so many talks. She's spoken to members of parliament, she's gone on TV shows like Good Morning Britain and This Morning and things like that, where she's actually been able to promote her story and talk about her life, basically, and the struggles that she's having. And I guess not even just to promote herself or do something for herself, but just think about all of those people, or those mums that will have children that may have diagnoses of these types of things and not know what treatments are out there, or that there are treatments out there. And it's just all about catching it before it gets worse, to allow that child to have as best of a life as possible. So yeah, I think that's kind of what that life-changing episode or documentary was. It's just basically showing that her life and the life that her children are going to have are life-changing, just by having the right, I think it was a foot stab or whatever it was, a foot prick, basically allowing that child to have the best life that they can. So yeah, that was kind of the documentary. The 2 different documentaries, the Life After Little Mix, which was more kind of her reciting her time in the band, and then obviously afterwards having children, moving back into mum, finding Zion, doing lots of promoting and stuff like that. And then Life Changing was more, again, the other diagnosis and the fact that she's now split up from Zion. So I think for now she's just focusing on herself. She's focusing on herself, her mum, her 2 kids, just to make sure that they're all okay. And I think what we've seen as well is that she is obviously very nocturnal, so she's making sure that she's doing the best for her children, and she's basically said, look, I don't want any other mums or families to kind of go through the situation. So all this promoting that she's doing, all these interviews that she's doing, all these petitions that she's trying to get people signing for, it's almost too late for her, or hopefully the right doctors will be able to not make it too late, but for the future babies that are coming into the world, just basically making sure they've had their checks, they've had their jabs, they've had their, pricks and things like that, to just ensure that, if they have any types of SMA or any other muscle syndrome issues, that it's basically caught before it gets worse. So yeah, I think it's very brave, just the fact that she's in the public eye. And I think that's one of the things that she mentioned as well. She basically said, look, I was at a time where I wanted to just kind of get rid of my social media and delete everything, but the fact that she's now grown such a large audience, she just basically said, look, I feel now that I've got an audience, I owe it back to all of those people that have obviously supported me or been there for me. She had lots of messages from mums who have had diagnoses of these things as well. So it's just basically finding other people in a community where she can feel loved, she can feel understood, she can feel cared for. And, as difficult as it is, basically, I feel like with Jesy, she's had to kind of go through loads of different things at the same time. So the breaking up of the band, and then the aftermath of all the sort of comments, or, she's quit, and all the post-interviews that she had to do with that. Again, the diagnoses of her children, both diagnoses, the kind of muscle issue and obviously SMA. The fact that she had her partner, was proposed to, and then that kind of fell through as well. And then I guess just all those constant flashbacks and memories to just bad things from the past as well. So yeah, I think it's sad, and I'm not gonna sit here and say she was an angel. Like we don't know. I think that's the thing. We don't know the full story of what happened, but most certainly she was hurt the most. Emotionally, physically, just people criticising her for how she looked, maybe how she talked, how she acted. The different boyfriends that they all kind of had. And, it's just, yeah, it is worrying and it is upsetting. But, hopefully she's got management, hopefully she's got talent around her, or makeup artists and things like that, or psychiatrics and counsellors and things like that, that she's got a supportive team of people who can help her and who can help her obviously get through it as well. So, yeah, again, I don't really want to jump into the Team Jesy or Team the others. It's more you're just Team Little Mix, and they're all kind of on their own journey doing their own thing. So yeah, that was kind of my little review of the documentary series, and obviously the life-changing episode as well. So yeah, again, it's more her just showing herself in the real world. She has lost a lot of weight and she does look gorgeous, her natural curly brown hair, and she kind of shows you and introduces you to other characters in her life. So yeah, her mum, some of her management, some of her agents, and then boyfriend at the time, a couple of her best mates, and then also a lady that she met from obviously finding out the SMA diagnosis. Apparently this woman reached out to her, or she reached out to this woman before the diagnosis even came about, before she even posted it on social media, just to kind of have a bit more of an understanding of what it actually was, how it can affect the children, and just being able to get as much knowledge and understanding before talking about it online. So yeah, I guess that's kind of it for this episode, because yeah, I was only talking to you about the Jesy documentaries, but like I said, she's done 3 lots of documentary things now. She's done Odd One Out, which was about her being in the band, how kind of she felt a little bit different from the rest of them. Life After Little Mix, which was, yeah, once she left the band, how did her life change? What has she kind of been up to? New love, children, things like that. And finally, Life Changing, where it's almost like finding out that her children now have a life-changing condition on top of what they already have. The boyfriend's basically no longer in the picture, but he will obviously still support the children. And then, yeah, how she and her mum are obviously being able to cope through that as well. So if Jesy ever does listen to this, it'll be absolutely fantastic to just get her on a podcast. I know the chances of that are very, very unlikely, because she's famous and I'm basically just not. But, just kind of hearing it from someone else's side, hearing it from her directly. And I think it'd be a great opportunity to, just get to find out the real Jesy. What we all see and what we all know is just what people have said about her on the internet, or, the music videos that we've seen, and the content we've seen online, and the bad day and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, actually hearing from the individual themselves, how in these 10 years were they affected, the documentaries that they've created, winning awards for different things. And actually, if you throw it all back and go back to before the X Factor, what was she doing when she was younger, when she was at school? Who were her childhood best friends, her childhood crushes? Did she do any other shows or TV work or extra work? Was there something that made a spark in her head go, oh, I really want to be a singer. I really want to be in the creative world or in musical theatre or something like that, because she could probably still do it now, or she could be a patron and run one. She could run a drama class or a singing class or a theatre show group or whatever, and help other young girls or boys getting into the world of drama and theatre and singing and stuff, just because of all the experience that she's had. So yeah, it is one of those interesting topics, and she is one of those very individual and interesting characters. But like I said, I will always see Little Mix as the 4-piece and the 3-piece, and as individuals. There's kind of an era with all of those different things happening, basically. But I have only seen Little Mix live as a 4-piece. I've never seen... Well, I don't think I've seen any of them individually, other than Jade when she performed with Lily Allen. I think Perry was at Summertime Ball this year. I think Jade was at Summertime Ball last year, and then I don't think Leanne's done Summertime Ball, but she'll be doing Brighton Pride later on during the year as well. So they're all doing lots of different things, and then obviously Jessy's just obviously focusing on her, I guess, documentary series, and probably coming out the other side with the children, knowing that they're both healthy, they're going to live, and that they're both going to have an amazing life ahead of them. So yeah. So if you did enjoy, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. What's your thoughts on the whole situation with Jesy Nelson, Little Mix, all the individual girls? Were you team Jesy? Were you the other team? Out of all the solo careers, who's kind of done the best so far? And then obviously with Jesy and her documentaries, what's your kind of thoughts or ideas behind, the reasons why she's done the documentary? How she's obviously able to help other people? Being knowledgeable about the things that she's talking about as well, and obviously the disappointing situation of finding the boyfriend proposing, almost becoming husband, and then it kind of all just falling apart, because obviously it was very difficult and traumatic for him, not only for her because she's the one that's going through it every day, but him as the partner who's obviously having to understand everything and deal with scans and hospitals and see his kids in a way that is not normal. But yeah, he did say he'd still support the kids, so let's see what happens. But until my next review or until my next podcast, thank you for listening, and until then, see you later and goodbye.